Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing.
It's
Better
Friday,
do something,
the
boy,
7th of October, 2022. And as always, I'm Alex on the Pennant podcast, here again with Peter.
Hello, I'm Peter.
So we're going to go into some Canadian politics to start us off here. Everybody's favorite topic of interest.
Yeah.
Very big week in provincial politics across the country.
Mm-hmm.
We have François Legault re-elected with a very solid majority.
Yeah, like 90 seats, I think, a supermajority.
Yeah, whereas the next party had like 21 and then like 14.
Yeah.
So, CAC, Coalition Avenir, Quebec, has another massive mandate.
Mm-hmm.
And Danielle Smith as well in Alberta.
Yeah.
Which is a little different because that was not a provincial election. It was a party leadership election. The UCP, United Conservative Party of Alberta, was electing a new leader after the resignation of Jason Kenney. So it was a little bit of a Boris Johnson Liz Truss situation.
Yeah.
For our British listeners, who actually outnumber our Canadian listeners, believe it or not.
Hello.
At the current moment. So if you're there in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, how's it going, everybody?
Cheerio.
Yeah. At any rate, now Danielle Smith is going to be Premier of Alberta. Is she technically Premier right now, or is she I
think she's getting sworn in next week, I think.
Okay. I figured there was some...
Yeah, but she's holding a caucus meeting. So she's the leader.
She's the leader.
But she's not the premier, I think, until she gets sworn in or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that race was much closer than in Quebec. Now, of course, that was a party race.
Yeah.
But she beat Mr. Taves, Travis Taves, I believe, something like 53 to 47 on the final ballot. So it was actually pretty close.
It went 6 ballots.
The big story is that Brian Jean kind of imploded a little bit towards the end there. And I guess a lot of his support went to Smith. At any rate, that's really shaken up the political landscape in Canada, even though, ironically, nothing changed. We still have a Conservative government in Alberta, and we still have a CAC government in Quebec.
Yeah.
So I guess that should be the first question that we address is, seeing as nothing has really changed in an electoral math kind of sense, what has actually changed? And my first kind of gut answer to that is replacing Jason Kenney with Danielle Smith is a pretty big deal.
Oh, 100%. It's a huge deal. I was telling you last night, texting you, basically, I don't know if you or any of our listeners, viewers remember this. Maybe if you're from the UK, you probably don't. We have a magazine called Maclean's here in Canada, which is, I guess, kind of our version of Time magazine.
It's
or
like
Newsweek.
The prestige, glossy, weekly magazine.
Yeah. And they published this famous cover of a bunch of the two former conservative leaders ago, Andrew Scheer, and then the leaders of different conservative parties, different conservative premiers across Canada, Doug Ford. I think, what's his name, like Brad Wall was on there.
Yeah.
I don't know if Legault was on it.
I think he was.
Might have been. I don't know. I'd have to pull this up. But a few kind of prominent conservative politicians. Jason Kenney was definitely on it, I think.
100%.
And pretty much, I forget what the headline was, but pretty much the idea of the article was that, there's this new school of kind of conservative leadership across the country that we're going to usher in, kind of be this opposition kind of block, this blue block against the Trudeau Lib agenda. And then that kind of spectacularly fizzled out, where either the people on that cover turned out to not be conservative at all and just govern as blue liberal or liberal liberals.
That's true of the big three of Kenney, Legault, and Ford for sure.
Yeah.
They all governed during the pandemic more or less as blue liberals. Even Kenney, who was saying, Alberta will not have a vaccine mandate and so on, even he caved on that.
Yeah.
In the end.
And then of course, Andrew Sheen, not Andrew Sheen.
Andrew Scheer.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. He didn't even get a chance to govern because he lost that race. Yeah, so this is the picture. I don't know if you guys could see it on my phone here, but that's the picture. And literally the title is The Resistance, and it has Doug Ford, Andrew Scheer, Jason Kenney, Brad Wall. I don't know who.
Scott Moe?
Scott Moe, maybe? Wait, is this Scott Moe? Is this guy? Honestly, I can't tell you.
This is embarrassing. But anyway.
But basically, Andrew Scheer lost the 2019 election. Jason Kenney basically was ousted by his own party before capitulating on COVID lockdowns and stuff. And Doug Ford implemented one of the strictest lockdowns in Ontario, along with a bunch of other lib policies.
Yeah.
You know. So basically, my long-winded point here is that this emergence of Daniel Smith, just a month after Pierre Poilievre took the leadership of the Federal Conservative Party, shows that there could be potential for this new resistance, but for real. Basically, it's the blue resistance, but real this time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what your take on it was.
No, I totally agree. In fact, you're making me want to Photoshop a new Maclean's cover.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
If I have the time this evening, I'll try to do that
for the
before
thumbnail.
the episode goes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. That is like the big news here is that now, you know, you have Danielle Smith, who we've talked about in the past, you know, bringing forward things like the Alberta Sovereignty Act in her agenda, looking to differentiate the role of the province from the federal government, looking to protect provincial jurisdiction from federal overreach. So when that was kind of the explicit centerpiece of her campaign, it is a serious mandate now that she's won and is the presumptive premier of Alberta, that in Canada's kind of right-wing heartland, we're not going to have, you know, conservatives in name only with the reins of power there anymore. And the fact that, you know, Daniel Smith and Brian Jean are such iconic Wild Rose members from back in the day.
Yeah, basically the Wild Rose has completely swallowed the PC.
Yes, at first. And there was huge backlash against Danielle Smith because she was instrumental in the vote to merge the two parties.
Yeah, people viewed it as a betrayal.
Even Danielle Smith has been publicly apologetic about it. Has said in the past, although I don't know if she would say that today based on how things wound up, but she's said in the past that it was a mistake, that she regrets what she did. But now, after the Wild Rose Party was swallowed by the Alberta PCs, now Wild Rose has swallowed them right back.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how much that shifts, you know what I mean? And federally, you could see the Poilievre camp. We could get to, what's her name? Garner.
Oh, Michelle Rempel Garner.
Yeah, you know, at some point. But it's an inflection point, I guess. And even I wanted to say, if we're going to do that cover, we have to include, I think his name's like Eric Duhaime or something.
Oh, the Quebec, Conservative Party of Quebec.
Leader, who basically... He did a decent showing. I think he got close to like 14 or 15% of the vote, but no seat, because how the seat broke down in Quebec was basically the CAQ just dominated.
Yep.
And then the Liberals, all the other parties basically hovered around like 13 to 14 to 15%. The Liberals became the official opposition with 26 seats.
But you had the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the PQ.
And the Quebec Solidaire.
Being polled around 15%. Yeah, and Quebec Solidaire.
Yeah, like literally 4 opposition parties, all polling around the same 15 percentage range.
With CAQ getting roughly the other 40.
Yeah.
So.
Getting different amounts of seats, and the Conservative Party Quebec getting none.
They had the least efficient vote as well.
Yeah.
Like, because they're kind of more of a movement party.
Whereas the Libs in Quebec Solidaire are concentrated in Montreal.
They have geographic advantages.
Yeah. So, but I think he deserves to be part of the resistance, given the fact that we're even talking about, like, I didn't even know Quebec had a Conservative Party.
They really didn't. They had a Progressive Conservative Party of Quebec. This is by my understanding, and I'm a lifelong Ontarian, so take it with a grain of salt. But they had a Progressive Conservative Party that was basically a pet project of a couple of like rich Anglo-Montrealers. And it was basically like the we're against Bill 101 party. But they weren't really serious.
Yeah.
And this new Conservative Party of Quebec is much more serious.
Wait, it's brand new? Like 2022?
So I actually don't know officially, like, if it is a new party or if it's
just resurrected
version of the Quebec PCs brought to a much broader audience. The Conservative Party of Quebec is interesting because they're pretty moderate in some ways, but
They're
in other
basically
ways, they're kind of a provincial PPC.
I was just going to say, they're the provincial people, the
They are.
PPPC.
They're the People's Party of Quebec.
Yeah.
That is very
Basically.
accurate. And in fact, Maxime Bernier, who Canadians know as the man who narrowly was defeated by Andrew Scheer in 2017,
Yeah.
and then went on to found the PPC, the populist kind of right-wing libertarian
Yeah.
party in Canada. He said that the Conservative Party of Canada was too intellectually and morally corrupt to be reformed, and that's why he left and founded his own party.
Yeah.
But he endorsed Eric Duhaime and
Yeah.
the Conservative Party of Quebec, which proves that that party has serious intellectual credibility on the right, even among people who are not comfortable with the federal Conservative Party.
Yeah. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. Apparently, this iteration was founded in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. But they were never really a serious party until this election.
Yeah, because they took that kind of PPC kind of angle. Because Quebec politics is so...
Yeah.
It's so, like,
So the way that
interesting
it
and
worked when
different,
we
you
were
know?
like growing up
Yeah.
was that essentially you had two parties.
A Federalist Party and a Separatist.
Federalists and Separatists.
The
exactly.
Liberals were the Federalist Party, the Parti Québécois were the Separatists, and like
Jean Charest,
yeah,
who was premier.
basically on the political spectrum, would the Libs be more conservative?
So
than
they're
the
kind
PQ,
of
or
a
like-
center-right to center-left version of the Liberal Party. They're nowhere near to the right as the BC Libs.
Yeah,
But they're slightly more probably like center-right generically than the Ontario Liberals.
and the
But they
Parti-
were basically the Federalist Party and the kind of the Anglo Rights Party, but not really.
and I guess the PQ, I think they were more left on like issues of like social assistance and welfare, but when it came to immigration, they're
Okay,
definitely more
yeah.
right. You know
I'm
what I
glad
mean?
you brought up immigration.
Because that's the
actually.
thing. Because it's like, even with like the CAC, right? They're considered like a
Yes.
center-right party, right?
Yes.
But so like I get like when you come, but Legault initiated like the harshest lockdowns in North America, even the world in some aspects of
yes,
it.
there were curfews.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And his immigration minister during the election said that 80% of immigrants don't work or speak French or adhere to Quebec values. Legault made some comments that some people interpreted as anti-immigrant as well. I think basically he condemned his minister and then made his own immigration
I don't know
comments.
exactly what he said, but I saw that.
Yeah. So on immigration, they kind of took a hard kind of angle on it, I guess. And like, I don't know, pretty much my whole take is that Vichy Quebec lives on
Yeah.
through this election.
Culturally, yes.
Because pretty much Legault, honestly, he might be one of the most brilliant politicians in Canada.
He is. Francois Legault, and just so that nobody gets this twisted, I
Yeah.
think both of us would say is one of, if not the most talented politician of this generation. in
100%.
Canada.
Because he's able to tack hard right on certain issues, but also hard left on other certain issues, and
Yeah.
in the middle where he needs to be. And like,
He's a pure populist.
Yeah.
Like in the purest sense.
he'll do whatever polls right. And there's the McKinsey angle, right?
Yes, the McKinsey scandal.
That we were talking about.
So recently it came out that the Quebec government paid the American consulting firm McKinsey, which famously had Pete Buttigieg for a while there.
Yeah.
But McKinsey is a large consulting firm. They were running the Quebec government's COVID response. So all of those people who were shocked that this, based right-winger Francois Legault has turned against his own people and he's implementing all of these authoritarian measures and, how is Justin Trudeau the premier of pandemic Quebec? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Well, it's because McKinsey was running the whole thing and Legault was basically just following their advice to a T uncritically.
And
as
was
far as I can
McKinsey
tell.
they were running the pandemic response, or like the PR kind of? Or was the
What's the
pandemic
difference?
response informed by the PR?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Throughout Canada, throughout the pandemic, much
Yeah.
of the pandemic response was informed directly by polls.
Yeah, look at the ArriveCan thing, right? There's those
Oh my God! Yeah.
documents, right, or something that could leak saying that the government didn't decide to put in the ArriveCan restrictions until basically, was it the polling? Man, I don't want to get this wrong, but pretty much the idea is that they used it as an election. Okay, this is how it went down. So pretty much they decided that this was a good wedge issue to use, and basically they weren't informed by the science. They basically decided that, okay, we're going to run an election on this, because he announced this like the day before or a week before he announces the 2021 election. And pretty much they announced these arrive can restrictions, and then they tried to figure out ways to make the science kind of support it.
Yes.
But they didn't have science supporting it.
Well, and of course, people joke about it, but the person who supposedly made the final call in favor of vaccine mandates had a degree in English literature.
Wait, what? Who?
I don't know if we have her name, but...
oh my God.
Yeah. And, you know, I also have a degree in English literature, so does that mean that I'm qualified to comment and say whatever I want about
I guess so.
vaccine
I guess so. Yeah. And I guess back to the Quebec thing, I found the Legault quote. He says accepting more than 50,000 immigrants in Quebec per year would be a bit suicidal.
Yeah.
And this was after he condemned his immigration minister for making anti-immigrant remarks. So yeah, Quebec is interesting, and like the fact that like the Conservative Party Quebec could actually, you know, do so well, I guess, considering that environment, you know what I mean? Like an actual kind of right-wing party for real this time.
Yeah. Not just right-wing in the sense of Quebec's social values, but right-wing in the sense of, you know, kind of general values of limited government.
100%. Yeah. Because I've seen a few interviews and read some stuff about Duane, and yeah, it's pretty much, you know, basically general kind of conservative values. I don't know if the camera moved a bit, but...
A little bit of wind gusts here. So it is very cold today.
Yeah.
And it is quite windy, and we're in kind of a dead spot with the wind, but obviously not completely dead.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we like to get out in nature when we do these, and it certainly makes the background prettier than if we just did it inside somewhere.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I guess to kind of summarize that topic, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think the resistance is real, the second iteration of it?
Yeah, we just have to see the Conservative Party under Poilievre actually follow through with their promises. And this would actually be a pretty good segue into the Michelle Rempel-Garner segment.
Okay.
Because I'm going to make an analogy here with Michelle Rempel. So
yeah, before that, do you want to check the camera to see if...
Okay.
We will be back with Michelle